Shalom, Esther Githoyot. It's Friday, September 30th. This is Africa 54.
Burkina Faso's military leadership tries to restore calm after pre-dawn gunfire around the presidential palace in Ouagadougou raises fears of a second coup in 8 months. Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni criticizes the European Union's intervention over a $3.5 billion oil pipeline to carry the landlocked country's crude to a port in Tanzania. And in our entertainment report, Heather Maxwell talks with legendary singer from Ghana, Julius Kojo Antwi, also known as Mr. Music Man.
We begin our broadcast in Burkina Faso, where there's unrest Friday as armed troops with military weaponry are on the streets of the capital, Ouagadougou, blocking several key roads. Gunfire also rang out in the city overnight. Paul Ndiho has more.
Burkina Faso is uneasy on Friday following the sounds of heavy gunfire heard before dawn around the presidential palace and the main headquarters of the military junta, raising the possibility of a second coup in 8 months. The current military leadership seized power in a coup last January. Several armed soldiers were seen also taking positions along the main avenue leading to the palace. Soldiers began blocking access to administrative buildings and the national television station was switched off temporarily. Burkina Faso's military leader Paul-Henri Damiba is accusing certain army units of creating, quote, confused situation, adding that discussions are ongoing to restore calm, according to a statement on the presidency's Facebook page. Foreign embassies in Burkina Faso are telling their citizens to stay safe amid the unrest. The U.S. embassy tweeted and advised citizens to avoid the areas where there are reports of shooting and monitor local media for updates. The military junta led by Colonel Paul-Henri Damiba took power in Burkina Faso in a coup on January 24th. Mainly, civilians that were disappointed with the former President Roch Kabore's government celebrated the takeover. The civilians were angry that Kabore's government could not rein in Islamist militants who have killed thousands of people in recent years and taken over large parts of the north and east parts of the country. Much of the country has become ungovernable since 2015. Millions have fled their homes, fearing further raids by gunmen who frequently descend on rural communities on motorbikes. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.
And joining us live via Skype from Ouagadougou is reporter Henry Wilkins. Hello, Henry. Bring us up to speed on the latest in Ouagadougou.
Hello.
Henry.
Sorry, I'm losing your...
Henry,
Hello.
Right, I can hear you. What's the
Hello,
latest
could you
from
repeat the
Ouagadougou?
question?
Yeah, bring us up to speed
Okay.
on that, on
So
what's happening
this
right now.
Sure. So this afternoon, we've seen a statement from the government released, which has called for calm in the capital. They've said that there has been a, quote, change of mood amongst the military in Burkina Faso, but they are negotiating to bring about calm and serenity are the words that they used, I believe. So clearly there is something afoot. For several hours before that statement was released, just after lunchtime, local time, there were reports of gunfire and members of the military had taken over large parts of the centre of the city as well. So really, there was quite a long period before this this statement was made, and when the statement was made, it didn't make it clear that there was no coup or indeed an attempt at a coup. So really, at the moment, we don't know fully who is in charge of the country. Some people who have perceived there to be a military coup already took to the streets earlier today, not in large numbers, but a few. And seem to be celebrating the arrival of a new military government. But as we head into the evening here, it's still no clearer as to who's running the country.
Right, Henry, thank you so much for your reporting. We'll definitely follow up with you in the coming days to see what's happening there in Ouagadougou. That was Henry Wilkins reporting for us from Ouagadougou. The trial of the top Rwandan genocide suspect Felicien Kabuga began Thursday at The Hague, with prosecutors accusing the 87-year-old urging ethnic Hutus to kill rival Tutsis. Kabuga's lawyers, however, on Friday told the tribunal he was merely a businessman caught up in the 1994 ethnic slaughter. VOA's Nabil Biagio spoke with Serge Bramert, prosecutor of the International Residual Mechanism for Criminal Tribunals, and asked him about the significance of the trial.
It's a very significant, very important trial. Over the last 5 years, I've been many times to Kigali. I met with survivors, I met with victims, a lot of persons who lost many members of their families. And it was really the #1 request over all those years to say, we want to see one of those last major fugitives, Felicien Kabuga, facing justice. So it is extremely important for the survivors and the victims, but it's also important for international justice, because it gives the strong signal that, well, it can take 15 years, 20 years, or here like more than 25 years. At the end of the day, justice still can prevail. So the say justice, the latest justice denied, is not really applicable in the field of international justice, where sometimes a lot of time is needed to be successful.
And Kabuga boycotted the opening session today of his trial. Of course, he denies all the accusations, the allegations of genocide and crimes against humanity as lies. How is that going to affect the proceedings of this trial?
Yeah, it's not affecting the proceedings. As the presiding judge said at the beginning of the trial today, well, Kabuga is fit for trial. He had the opportunity to join in person or to join via video link. He decided not to, which is his right. He could waive the right to be physically present. But as the presiding judge said, well, the trial will start as it did today. We have, as Office of the Prosecutor, laid out our evidence, a kind of summary of the evidence in relation to the 50 witnesses who will testify in person, and more than 50 witnesses whose testimonies have been entered in writing into proceedings. So it started well today. It will continue tomorrow and next week, and we are optimistic that this trial will proceed according to plan.
For a second straight day, Kabuga refused to appear in court Friday, complaining that he had lost confidence in his court-appointed attorney and that the Hague Tribunal had refused to let him select a new lawyer. The Voice of America is partnering with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce's U.S. Africa Business Center, and as it convenes its first annual Africa Digital Innovation Competition for African startups. For more on this initiative, I'm joined by Guevara Yao. He is the Executive Director of Western Central Africa, U.S. Africa Business Center at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Yao, a very warm welcome to you here on Africa 54.
It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, technology is very interesting, but what's the main focus of this competition?
Well, the competition is geared to, spotlight talent on the continent. We know, we have been following the trend on the continent, how digital economy, is representing so much for the continent. So our focus is really to bring startups that are operating in that, sphere to to see, to detect talent, the innovation in sector like, cybersecurity and fintech. We have also what we call supply chain and and supply chain development, for example. And we also have the human development and social services like e-health, e-education, and so forth. So really the focus is how do we spotlight those talents and trying to support those in innovation that we see on the continent.
And you have a lot of talents coming out of the continent. So
Absolutely.
How is the Chamber supporting applicants given some of the challenges that we have experienced, globally, like the COVID-19 pandemic, and also the fact that there have been some conflicts in parts of Africa?
Yes. Well, what we did, you have to note that we partner with our AmCham network, the American Chamber network across the continent. We have about 18 AmChams. We also have about 26 AmChams that are looking for accreditation. So we have partners on the ground. We also have U.S. Embassy that we use. We have partners that to disseminate that information on this opportunity for startups on the continent. So that's really what we use to spotlight. Of course, social media, although the youth, there's internet access issue, but a lot of youth are on social media. So we use that a lot, and that was actually one of the main source of having those applicants.
So what would you say has been the most, impactful submission so far? Because I know you're receiving these applications over and over.
Yes, we started this competition in April 28th, and we received close to 2,000 applicants from over 50 countries on the continent. That was really amazing. And out of that, we went through a process to streamline to have, top 25. And those top 25 were coming from each of the 5 regions of Africa. And so after that process, we were able to identify the champion for North Africa was the startup Vice from Egypt. We also have the same thing from East Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa, and Central Africa. And it's exciting for us. We have now the top 10. We are now moving by this Monday, Tuesday next week to determine the top 3. And those top 3, we are actually hoping to bring them in December during the summit that is coming up. To spotlight and showcase those talents.
And briefly, what is your advice to the youth out there watching you here on this program and trying to make some kind of name out there in terms of how they can get into this technology field?
Well, I think there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of hope, and they need to keep trying. And they need to, I think the main issue is the access to information. And that's what we're trying to do by partnering with institutions like yours and other institutions to bring the word out there. A lot of resources exist, but the youth are not aware of it. For example, the U.S. ADF, who is one of our partners, is bringing support. We have members that are supporting this initiative on the continent on their own, be it Microsoft, Google, all those different companies. So we're bringing all this in one platform at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and see how we can support those youth. So the advice would be they need to keep trying, they need to look for those information, and this is a first edition. We hope to do it every year, so they need to be looking out for that.
That's a great opportunity.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Guevara Yao is the Executive Director of West and Central Africa, U.S. Africa Business Center at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. In other Africa business news this week, South Africa's government looks to shake things up at Eskom, and Uganda's president criticizes the European Parliament's intervention over an oil pipeline. David Doyle has the details.
Here are 5 business stories making headlines in sub-Saharan Africa this week. Swiss engineering firm ABB said on Friday that it's setting aside a provision of around $325 million to cover costs related to investigations surrounding the Kusile power plant in South Africa. In 2020, ABB agreed to pay 1.56 billion rand, then worth $104 million, to South Africa's state-owned Eskom to settle an investigation into improper payments and compliance issues related to the project. Also on Eskom, the South African government has said it will make changes to the struggling Power Utilities Board of Directors after electricity outages reached record levels this year. Eskom, saddled with unreliable coal-fired power stations and a mountain of debt, has struggled to meet electricity demand for more than a decade. Production is expected to begin at what would be Ghana's first lithium mine by the second half of 2024, the interim chief executive of Australia-based Atlantic Lithium has said. Leonard Kolff said that a recent scoping study showed revenue could reach nearly $5 billion over the mine's lifetime. Uganda's president has criticised a European Union Parliament intervention over a $3.5 billion oil pipeline to carry the landlocked country's crude to a port in Tanzania. A resolution passed earlier this month urged Total Energies to delay development of the pipeline by a year to explore an alternative route or alternative renewable energy projects. Speaking at a conference where a third oil block licensing round in Uganda was announced, Yoweri Museveni said the European Parliament's move was a wrong battleground for them, and that we don't take kindly to arrogance. And finally, Japan's Daikin Industries has said it will begin assembling air conditioners in Nigeria, a regional head has said, as it renews a push into Africa that had been delayed by the global health crisis. Daikin is also aiming to become the leading seller of air conditioners, chillers and other cooling equipment in East African countries such as Kenya and Tanzania by 2025.
Senegalese President Macky Sall calls on the country's Justice Ministry to investigate granting amnesty to his political opponents who are serving sentences for corruption. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa refutes allegations of money laundering during grilling by lawmakers on Thursday. And Mali is rejecting and will not apply sanctions on Guinea imposed by West Africa's main political and economic bloc. The host of VOA's African Beat radio show, David Vandy, was honored at the National Press Club Thursday, where he received the 2022 Distinguished Honoree of the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award signed by U.S. President Joe Biden. Vandy also recently received the African Community Service Award, recognizing his commitment to improving the lives of the Africans on the continent and the diaspora. To discuss these achievements, I'm joined by David Vandy. David, welcome back to Africa 54.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here.
So should I be envious, first of all? You're winning too many things, David.
No, let's just celebrate.
So how did you get to win a U.S. presidential award?
Well, you see, sometimes you're doing things you don't know that people are watching. And you go the extra mile, you don't know who is watching you. So just keep doing what you're doing. And I got somebody said, you know what, we're going to nominate you for something. I said, what? They said, U.S. Presidential Award. I took it with a pinch of salt. I said, give me this, give me this, give me that. And I gave him, and then...
And the question is, what did you do?
Well, a lot of voluntary work. You see, when you are in the community, there are people there that look up to you. And you make a lot of sacrifices to make sure the lives of these people are meaningful to them. And you encourage them, you do things to them that will make them not give up. And you're always very supportive of whatever they do.
You know what I'm waiting for? What exactly was pinned out of all of this to get you these awards that you have right here on the table?
Well, I tell you, according to the letter that I received, they said, I've been working to improve the lives of other people. And to be honest, since I was back home, that has always been me. I always put other people in front. I always help them to get to where they want to get to. I do not look at them and say, oh, because I am David Vandy, I have been here, so nobody else should come there. No.
I want to hear what you did. What did you do to get this U.S. Presidential Lifetime Award, David? There's so many things you've done, but what exactly did you do?
So many things.
Yeah.
Well, this one encompasses everything that I've been doing since I came to this country. And I even went back to look at what I was doing when I was back in Sierra Leone. You know, the kind of, the way I help people, the contributions I make in the community, you know, it is for everything that I have done.
You know why I'm asking this? It's like what? Because someone else listening, whether they're in Africa, whether they're here in the diaspora, they want to do something like what you did, or maybe in a different way. Okay. Name them.
Now, like going out and support, like there are times where I go down to Washington, D.C. We support the homeless people, go into these shelters, we feed them on weekends. You understand? I also joined I'm a pastor in the church. We use the church to go out and support people in the community, help them with clothes, help them with feeding, do a lot of other stuff. And I am also, I'm a theater actor. I brought the community together, whereby I took the kids on summer holiday, not allowing them to be playing out on the streets. And I created what we call a summer, drama summer camp, whereby I teach them to do theater, dance, and music, so that they will not just be left out when they say it's summer holiday and they just go out to the streets. So I bring them into the church and I use that to make sure that they are focused. And at the end of the day, we did a whole concert.
Right.
You know.
David, we'll have a show, just you and I.
Just
30 minutes, because you have so much. But thank you. We'll follow up on the website.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
David Vandy is the host of VOA's The African Beat radio program. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris expressed U.S. support for South Korea during a trip to the tense border between the two Koreas on Thursday. VOA's Anita Powell reports from Washington, along with Seoul Bureau Chief Bill Gallo, who traveled with the Vice President.
Vice President Kamala Harris brought a short and straightforward message Thursday on her visit to the demilitarized zone, just 38 kilometers from Pyongyang.
I cannot state enough that the commitment of the United States to the defense of the Republic of Korea is ironclad.
Analysts say she visited the border to broadcast that message to North Korea, which has run 35 ballistic missile test launches this year.
They will be watching every move that the vice president makes in South Korea, but certainly right at the DMZ, where they can see her up close and personal. I should mention that the North Koreans did welcome her with some missile tests.
The latest launches come amid recent U.S.-South Korea joint naval drills, which included the nuclear power USS Ronald Reagan. The trip took her to Japan and South Korea, where she met with both leaders and with U.S. troops, and attended the funeral of assassinated former Japanese leader Shinzo Abe. Analysts say she kept the diplomacy low-key throughout.
I wouldn't have expected her to go on this trip and make a lot of new policy. And I think for her, especially not being quite as deep on politics in Asia, she's not likely to break new ground anytime soon when she goes on these sorts of trips.
But Lee says Harris may have made quiet strides on both sides of the Korean border.
This is a woman who defies the stereotypes of Americans in their propaganda. She's not a white man. And so it also, I think that probably adds to the layer of curiosity about her. And I love it.
A number of strong, clear, blunt signals made it the thin line keeping the fragile peace between the two Koreas. Two nations so close, yet so far apart. Anita Powell, VOA News, Washington.
It's time for Entertainment Report with Heather Maxwell, the host of VOA's Music Time in Africa radio show. Hello, Heather.
Hello, Esther. Yes, so Kojo Antwi is indeed a legendary musical figure in Ghana. He's known as Mr. Music Man and has been making hits since the mid-1980s. He is currently in the U.S. and dropped by the studio here in Washington last week. Let's take a look at some highlights of that conversation. Kojo Antwi, welcome to Voice of America.
It's great to be here.
Hello, Nanaya.
Hi.
So you're a singer, musician, a multi-instrumentalist. Nanaya, you are a singer.
I'm a singer, so yep.
Okay, so what are you doing in the United States?
I'm here to do some performance.
How did you get your name, The Music Man?
Mr. Music Man happened to be the fourth album that I produced, but there was a track on it called The Music Man. But somehow, along the way, the name got attached to me as Kojo Antwi, The Music Man.
Okay.
You know, and I love it because it dictates everything that I do. I came to the music world to introduce different kind of love songs. Some of my songs, Kakai and other songs, dictates love from a total different view of the, I would say, the Ghanaian. That's what has made my song so special today.
What is your best song?
All my songs are even the ones that didn't work so well on this, the listeners made magic for me. So I love all of them.
Like children?
Yes.
How many albums have you put out?
I have I'm working on the 13th album. So I have already 12 out there. I've done some kind of remix. I'm not good at doing remixes. So I might say I have a 13th album, which is more of a remix, you know.
So how long have you two been performing together?
We've been working for a long time. I don't know how many years.
Yeah, I think my first performance with Kojo was somewhere around 93, 94, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
a long time.
Goes way back, yeah.
Well, Kojo, is there a message that you would like to send?
What we like to spread around is the love. African music has the energy to bring people together and also to tell them to motivate towards good things. We've done various performances. Some of our performances has gotten us to the BET nomination. That was the first time they did a category that could nominate us from that side of the world. And it shows how good our music is spreading about. And we want this to settle with the fans. And we want them to know how powerful music is and how they should also keep music going. The African music, they should keep it moving forward. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Best of luck on the tour.
Thank you.
I look forward to
it.
And that's it for our entertainment report. Esther, back to you.
You're not going anywhere, Heather. I would like to, is he still here on the tour of the U.S.? He says African music has to keep moving. We got to keep doing it.
Yeah, he's on the tour for, I think, a month or so, several states. I'm not sure which ones, but when he came to Washington last week, it was one of his first. So he's still in the U.S. somewhere. So if you're interested, get online and type Kojo Antwi, and you'll probably be able to find where he's going to be performing next.
Heather, you never disappoint. Thank you very much. And be sure to join Heather Maxwell's entertainment reports every Friday right here on Africa 54. And that's our show. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a great weekend.